My name is Branka Panic. Thank you, David, for your introduction. I'm a senior advisor to the German Federal Foreign Office Data Innovation Lab, and I'll be guiding us today through the topic of the AI revolution and is foreign policy prepared for the future. I prepared a couple of slides, and I want to start with this big topic of AI, artificial intelligence. And I would like to start with some of my favorite quotes that, in a way, explain this maybe big hype we are in, or maybe the reality we are living now, or in a very short-term future, starting with the AI is the single biggest technology revolution the world has ever seen. The AI that will not only be a game changer, but it will disrupt the entire playing field. Or probably the most famous quote that Stephen Hawking left us with, that AI is likely to be either the best or the worst thing to happen to humanity. Not an easy legacy to deal with, but it's motivating to know that it's still in our hands to decide if this will actually be the best or worst technology. So today, AI is everywhere and it is transforming our society. So I wanted to show a couple of slides that are maybe explaining in which way is AI transforming our societies. And I'm starting with maybe the most prominent resource of where the AI is currently today. This is coming from Stanford, the yearly publication on AI index, and the results are the latest one from 2024. Here you can see how AI has surpassed human performance on several benchmarks, including some in image classification, visual reasoning, and English understanding. However, the artificial intelligence is still behind on more complex tasks such as competition level mathematics or visual reasoning or planning. The number of AI publications in the world is still increasing. Between 2010 and 2022, the total number of AI publications nearly tripled. And the increase over the last year was maybe a more modest 1%, and we will see what kind of changes this will bring to the future. Number of mentions of artificial intelligence in legislative proceedings is also increasing across the globe. It actually nearly doubled, and AI was mentioned in the legislative proceedings of 49 countries in 2023, and at least one country from every continent discussed artificial intelligence in the last year. So private investment for many years have been increasing, and for the last 2 years, we see a little bit of change. So global private AI investment has actually fallen for the second year in a row, though less than this sharp decrease from 2021 to 2022. So the count of newly founded artificial intelligence companies, however, has increased up to 40.6% from the previous year. What is maybe even more interesting when we look at the private investments into AI is, although the overall investment is decreasing, we obviously see this increased interest in the generative AI following this so-called new wave of generative AI revolution from 2019 to 2023. We see this increase, especially in the last year, that again, despite this overall decline in the private investment, we see that investors are very interested in generative AI, and major players in this industry, in this space, including OpenAI and companies such as Anthropic or Hugging Face, reported substantial fundraising rounds. Now, I wanted to maybe move us away from the AI index and reporting from the industry to actually understand what kind of change this generative AI brought, and how from big universities, big tech companies, or big governments, this topic suddenly became part of conversation of our very own homes as well. So suddenly every single family, I think in the last 2 years, had a conversation around generative AI, either how it impacts our school systems, our children, our work, and so on. And just to explain this in this data that I found online, that in 2022, the AI Google Trend Score, so Google Trend Score is basically Google measuring the most popular topics that people are searching on the Google engine. And this trend score was number 11, with 0 being not searched at all, and 100 indicating that a certain topic is a very popular and people are very interested in this. So for 2022, this trend score for artificial intelligence was 11. In 2023, this number surged to 100. So we see how people suddenly started being interested, and maybe from being a niche conversation, artificial intelligence is becoming part of our everyday conversations and lives. Now, I'm joining today from Oslo, and being in Nordics, I was motivated maybe to look even further and to see how from AI being part of our everyday conversations, suddenly we see this year AI entering into Nobel Prizes as well. So the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded just maybe a week ago. And John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton were awarded this Nobel Prize in Physics for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning for artificial neural networks. And Geoffrey Hinton, maybe those of you who are following the happenings in AI field, is also famous as so-called godfather of artificial intelligence. The media covered him intensively in the previous year as he left Google. He wanted to be more free in tackling some of the issues and speaking openly around issues about artificial intelligence. And now suddenly he's also awarded for his work in AI the Nobel Prize in Physics. And you can imagine the reactions of not only experts in the field, but beyond that as well, being very surprised how now suddenly somebody who works in AI can get this award. And I picked on the right side of this slide, you can see just a couple of reactions from a Twitter discussion around this award, being surprised since when machine learning actually became physics. Or this is a quote, I can only imagine the pain of physicists. Or even a joke if this decision was maybe made by ChatGPT. So obviously the reactions are very emotional to this award. And maybe to add a little bit to this, just a couple of days after the Nobel Prize in Physics has been awarded, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been awarded again for AI. So David Baker got the half of this award for computational protein design, and Demis Hassabis and John Jumper got this award for their joint work on the protein structure prediction. So AI is entering the Nobel circles as well, and the reactions are big now. Instead of sharing some Twitter comments, I actually wanted to share a voice from our colleague from the field, Virginia Dignum, who is working as a professor in computing science department at the University of Sweden, who reacted to this award. And I quote her here, that this is a sort of a triumph for interdisciplinarity, that the real breakthroughs in science are no longer the domain of a single discipline, but require a broad perspective and a combination of different insights. So obviously we see so many fields are being transformed and changed due to the impacts of artificial intelligence. So many fields are changed, so many industries are adopting AI. And we at the Data Innovation Lab, being positioned at the German Federal Foreign Office, asked then the question, what is happening with this intersection of artificial intelligence and foreign policy? And we started doing a research more than a year ago at this intersection, talking with different practitioners, doing different workshops to demystify artificial intelligence, to talk with foreign ministry professionals, with different diplomats, and to see what is happening at this intersection. And what our research told us that slowly, maybe a decade ago, the artificial intelligence started intensively being the topic that foreign policy was interested in, and foreign policy practitioners were catching up on what has been happening in this topic. And then what we see maybe in the last several years is this transition as well from foreign policy being a topic to slowly being adopted as a tool. And I'll be explaining what we mean by that. So first of all, as a topic, basically, there are many framings that we can take in explaining this relationship and how foreign policy is talking about artificial intelligence. For this purpose, we decided to pick three specific directions. And again, we could have discussed other overlapping issues as well. But the three main ones that we see and that we selected for this keynote is national AI as having national security implications for different countries. Then the impact of artificial intelligence on economic opportunities and risks, and of course, impacts on democracy. So it's very hard and biased and subjective pinpointing a specific moment when foreign policy started being interested in this topic of artificial intelligence, but so many of the professionals we actually talked about mentioned this specific point in history and elections in the United States in 2016. And this specific event or an incident around Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, which actually showed all of the implications the algorithms and artificial intelligence can have for our elections and for things that are happening inside of our national politics. And then foreign policy started also looking into this, how this technology can be used internally or maybe sometimes misused by external and foreign actors to impact things that are happening internally. And now around the same year, or this was 2017, The Verge published an article mentioning actually the Russian President Putin, saying that a nation that leads artificial intelligence will be the ruler of the world. And then at the same time, Elon Musk, being such an influencer in this field as well in artificial intelligence, actually retweeted this article, then quoting and saying that China, Russia, and soon all countries with strong computer science will be there competing around AI. And this competition for AI superiority at national level most likely will cause the World War III. So this created a lot of effect in the field, and then suddenly so many actors started looking into this and started looking, and not only looking and discussing, but also investing more in this technology that will have such a big impact on geopolitics as well. So a lot of things are happening at the same time, and this is why I'm picking this 2016, 2017 as the years that maybe made this difference. A lot of things happening on the technology side as well. And we could have mentioned many of them, but I'm picking this one specifically of Google's DeepMind AlphaGo artificial intelligence system that has defeated the world's #1 Go player. And now the game, having in mind that it's such a complex game and it has been usually related to human expertise and human competition, this also raised some awareness that some major developments are happening on the technology side as well, and why we need to follow the impacts of this field on foreign policy. Interestingly, again, as Gunda mentioned in her introduction, we have a number of chief data officers, chief data scientists, but also tech diplomats joining our forum today. And that's why I'm picking this moment as well, because again, in 2017, in mid-2017, actually, Denmark became the first country in the world to elevate technology and digitalization. And this is a quote from their office, to a cross-cutting foreign and security policy priority. So Denmark is really leading the way and saw this as this such an important intersection between the technology and the government, and especially foreign policy. And they started this initiative that at that time was named technological diplomacy, or simply techplomacy. Today, maybe more famous and familiar to many people as tech diplomacy. So Denmark is opening the first office of the tech ambassador being based in the Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, enabling this more active communication between the entire tech sector in the Silicon Valley. And then many countries actually followed, either by opening their own offices as well in the Silicon Valley or other tech hubs around the world, or opening these roles of tech ambassadors, starting this entire stage, I would say, in the development of the diplomacy called tech diplomacy, appointing tech ambassadors maybe in their own national countries as well, usually as part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Their role is to focus on emerging technologies, to open sometimes new channels of communications, not only with private companies. Actually, this is a multi-sector initiative as well, with the idea that we need to talk with multiple stakeholders out there to enable to actually use the maximum out of this intersection of technology and diplomacy, and to also be able to catch up with addressing these main global challenges while we are also promoting innovation. So very interesting new stage of the development of diplomacy that will maybe now even transition to some form of AI diplomacy. And we already actually see that happening as part of the tech diplomacy field. Now, the main priority, as I mentioned, is for many countries actually looking into impacts of artificial intelligence on the national security, looking at many military potential and actual current military applications, such as intelligence gathering and analysis, utilization of artificial intelligence in augmented decision making, of course, this intersection of AI and nuclear stability. And as we heard from the introduction of Mr. John Reyes as well today, this very important topic of autonomous weapon system, and this is the one of the first topics that was picked up by the foreign ministries as well, and became a very important central topic to the national security issues. Now, economy is the second big topic that the foreign policy started being interested in, and then from two directions as well, looking different economic opportunities, but also looking at different risks. Now, this is a huge topic, and we could have discussed the entire day just around the intersection of artificial intelligence and economy, but I'm picking up here a couple of details that can explain maybe the range of this conversation, where again, maybe following on generative AI trends, we see that the Gen AI could drive a 7% or almost 7 trillion increase in global GDP. 94% of economists surveyed in one of the survey that we picked up expect artificial intelligence to radically boost productivity in high-income economies over the next 5 years, but just 53% predict a similar effect in low-income economies. And here we see now a distinction as well, and maybe this digital gap as well, transitioning to AI gap as well, and differences between how different countries will be able to benefit from this technology, depending if they're positioned in this so-called global north or global south, or depending on the level of the development, digital development they're currently in. So many are flagging, and foreign policy is definitely interested in that dimension as well, this risk of AI actually increasing inequalities between our countries, but also inside of our countries. So the fear is that there will be major impacts on employment markets around the world, with 300 million full-time jobs exposed to automation. Now, a lot of economists and foreign policy experts are still being optimistic around this, claiming that we don't exactly know in which direction these jobs will be automated and changed, and how many new jobs will actually be created thanks to the developments in artificial intelligence field. Something similar what happened with the internet development as well, the entire digital revolution, where so many of us actually work in jobs today that did not exist only 20 or 50 years ago. And then the third big topic is artificial intelligence and risk and opportunities for the democracy. And we are especially dedicating our attention to this as Data Innovation Lab. We also organized one of the data talks on this topic. So this is invitation maybe for you, if you haven't already followed some of our data talks, to see the topics we have been covering at this intersection of foreign policy and artificial intelligence, and these main trends at this intersection, talking with some of the main experts in the field. We also discussed impacts of artificial intelligence on election cycles, especially during this big election year 2024, where more than half of humanity actually live in a country holding a nation-wide elections this year, and some of them already did that, of course, in the first half of the year. Now, because of all of this interest of foreign policy in artificial intelligence and impacts of AI, suddenly AI starts being a subject of different agreements and treaties. And this is where foreign policies are also intensively active in. And I will mention just some of them. It's impossible to mention all of these processes because in the last 5 years or even a decade, so many countries, multilateral organizations as well, started being active in this field, starting from, I actually want to start by UNESCO because of the size of this initiative, where 193 countries adopted the first ever global agreement on the ethics of artificial intelligence. In UNESCO followed up with many other initiatives after adopting this document and setting a standard for so many others to actually follow with adopting these ethical principles in dealing with artificial intelligence. And UNESCO then followed up with some practical tools, with readiness assessment tool, with many others to actually help countries do the assessment of their current stage of adoption or the potential adoption of artificial intelligence in their government. Now, other interesting processes starting being developed at the United Nations level, such as the UN Security Council's first ever meeting held on risk and opportunities of AI, discussing, interestingly, both catastrophic risks for humans, but also historic opportunities that the AI is bringing to our world. So this discussion was in July 2023. And then 1 year after, United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution on seizing the opportunities of safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence systems for sustainable development. So AI is taking the stage at the United Nations, and this year was especially interesting in that direction because it actually brought us a conclusion of a multi-year process and discussion that has been happening as part of the Summit of the Future, and the process that followed the entire artificial intelligence conversation was our common agenda, and specifically Global Digital Compact, discussing the governance of AI and emerging technologies, with this document being just adopted a couple of weeks ago at the United Nations General Assembly, with a very interesting report of the high-level body of the General Secretary, as well, discussing how we can utilize this technology for the benefit of humanity. Now, since we are joining from Germany, some very interesting happenings are in the European Union as well. Of course, the entire world is following the adoption of the first Artificial Intelligence Act, where European Parliament adopted this first AI law that will actually regulate how companies and governments can use artificial intelligence in the future. We are all looking at the EU AI Act as well for the so-called Brussels effect that proved in some previous processes, such as GDPR. So the expectation is that this regulation will also have this ripple effect in other countries across the world. So all of these happenings, AI becoming a topic, AI becoming part of many regulatory processes, are now actually allowing me to start this conversation not only with quotes from some private companies or private universities that are really big names in AI, but some of the politicians as well. So such as the one of the UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez, who says that we must work together for AI that bridges social, digital, and economic divides, not one that pushes us further apart. Or the one coming from the very own German Minister of Foreign Affairs, Annalena Baerbock, who, I quote, says, "We want to be able to harness the great potential of AI, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it is used fairly and ethically." And we already heard in the introduction how much actually Germany, and specifically German Federal Foreign Office, is putting an emphasis on this ethical adoption and the development, design, and implementation of this technology. Now, with all of this, as I mentioned, we are entering this maybe new stage of AI development in relation to foreign policy, and AI being either developed or implemented as a tool in the work of foreign policy practitioners. Now, again, this is not something new because the diplomacy, the foreign policy has been adopted, obviously, previous developments in the technology from telephone, long distance conversations, radio, TV, and social media presence as well through developing this so-called digital diplomacy. Now we are entering this new stage of technological adoption and for some governments, even development of their own artificial intelligence tools. And I will mention a couple of examples of how these tools have been adopted either at the EU or developed at the United Nations level in multilateral diplomacy or by some external actors. Here we see this multi-sectoral collaboration with universities, with academia, where some tools have been adopted externally and then developed externally and then adopted in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then we are announcing something very interesting at the forum throughout the day. Many of the examples of tools that actually ministries of foreign affairs developed and are applying in their own work. So what are those specific applications that are already happening? One of them being situational awareness and predictive analytics, where data and data science hold immense potential for predictive analytics in foreign policy by leveraging not only historical data, but more and more real-time data to forecast either geopolitical trends or potential outcomes of policy decisions. Now, AI can also analyze climate data to help countries assess their environmental impact or monitor climate change and develop strategies to mitigate the effects of the climate change on global scale. So there are many other applications, and we will see some of them throughout the day in predictive analytics. This is an example that I mentioned coming from outside actors, views the violence and impact early warning system developed in collaboration by Uppsala University and Peace Research Institute Oslo, which is giving a sort of a model development of specifically dedicated novel methodologies to forecast violent conflict and impacts of violent conflict on societies and human development. And we already see many ministries of foreign affairs picking up the tool and applying it in developing their work on situational awareness. The second big topic is reporting from sessions, consultations, or different negotiations. And this is where natural language processing, NLP algorithms are showing very useful and successful with their capabilities to extract the key insights and trends from either different meetings or diplomatic records or facilitating the creation of more comprehensive and timely reports. Actually, saving the time of foreign policy practitioners, because these assignments can be very time consuming. The idea is actually to liberate the time of foreign policy practitioners to concentrate on things that really matter. One of the examples coming now from the civil society organization, from our colleagues from Diplo Foundation, which is one of the leading actors in this field, is the tool that they developed. They provided the UN Security Council debate on future-proofing trust for sustaining peace, held in 2023. They basically developed the tool called Diplo GPT to enable the reporting from a very long event. And those of you who are following the UN debates know that these meetings can be very time consuming, very long. This was a 6-hour event that was processed with this AI chatbot and enabled reporting. And this is still a tool that is available for professionals to pick up and to actually get some insights from the conversations happening at the UN Security Council. A little plug-in from our own work at the Data Innovation Lab. We also developed our own diplomacy tool during the AI challenge that we coordinated with our colleagues from Omdena on specific negotiations on Global Digital Compact. And more about this later throughout the day. Please check the agenda for today and don't miss this session on the use of AI in multilateral negotiations. The third big topic where the AI can be potentially very useful is consultation, utilizing AI in consultation processes with citizens in policymaking, where again, the natural language processing and sentiment analysis can be useful in analyzing large volumes of citizens' feedback from different resources, including social media, online surveys, and other information coming from citizens. And this data-driven approach provides policymakers with valuable insights into public opinions, enabling potentially more informed decision-making and ensuring that policies actually better align with the needs and aspirations of citizens. One of the examples we are bringing from our colleagues from the UN DPPA-DPO, AI-assisted large-scale public dialogues and the tools that they developed specifically for the peace negotiations in Lebanon, is one of the also inspirational cases of how AI can be useful in negotiations. Again, as I mentioned, this is just a teaser and invitation for the audience to follow us throughout the day. If you look at the agenda on the website, those are all of the project showcases that will be presented throughout the forum today that explore and show the potential of AI to be utilized in the ministries of foreign affairs. Many challenges comes with this utilization and intersection, from internal expertise and the need to invest more in capacity building, in internal capacity building for the use and the development of AI tools. Many ethical challenges from privacy, transparency, explainability, cybersecurity challenges. So we just wanted to make sure, and you will see that throughout the day as well, that every one of these discussions will have an ethical component. And we do think that ethics by design needs to be part of this process. So with this, I will conclude, and just by bringing us back and looping us back to the topic of this conversation of the keynote, is foreign policy actually prepared for the future? And I want to say that future does not start in 2050 or in a decade or tomorrow, but future starts today, and it even started yesterday. And because of this, we are very grateful for the Data Innovation Lab for actually allowing us to prepare for that future throughout this forum today as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I really, really look forward to following all of the discussions today.